What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with the video, coming off our second best week of the season at 12-5, but HN decided to do us dirty, so we didn't quite hit for our ceiling. I'm still so surprised with how poorly he played last week. He was in a fantastic spot. He'd been awesome up to that point, and then the man averages 1.6 yards per carry. Did not expect that to happen. We'll try and put that behind us, though. We've got some great options this week. I'll be honest, there's no clear spot I want to attack from like a game environment standpoint, at least in relation to underdog projections. I do think the clearest spot is probably Dallas at Panthers. There's a lot of great players in that game. It's very likely that multiple players have a big game, but let's be honest, I'm probably going to take like Pickens and Tet both higher than 100 receiving yards. But when you look at site projections, that only gives you an 8x boost because the like underlying projection for these sites is already so high. So they're factoring in already that game is going to be awesome. So of course we're still going to go over a ladder, but it's not going to be centered around one particular game. It'll have two players from one spot. But I just don't think this week there's a clear spot where we're going to see a huge back and forth and sites are under projecting the players as a baseline. But I, of course, do have the ladder for all of you. It's going to be Ashton Genty, Tucker Kraft, and Chase Brown. You can see the ladder on the screen now. As always, everyone has to hit a level to get that payout. But if everyone hits level 1, you get 1.5x. Everyone hits level 2, we get 3x. And then why we're really doing it, everyone hits level 3, we get 100x. And we will go over a 4-pick one that has 500x later in the video. But as a baseline, Genty, you need at least 60 rushing yards. Kraft, at least 30 receiving yards. Chase Brown, at least 15 receiving yards. Not rushing for Chase Brown. It is receiving yards. And if we want the 100x, it's Genty, at least 130. Kraft, 100. Chase Brown, 50. For Genty, pretty simple. No team offers a larger volume and efficiency boost. So not only are the Titans allowing the largest total increase to rushing for running backs, but on those carries, they're also allowing the highest efficiency. It is a horrible combination to have as a defense. And we all know Genty just needs a little space. Like, he had a big game earlier this year. That was the one game where they finally got into the second level. All he needs is to not be contacted at the line of scrimmage, give him a little bit of an opening, and he is absolutely gone. He'll make people miss. He'll bounce off defenders. He's going to probably have another epic game this weekend. I'm fully confident, fully expecting 100 yards here. Like, I really think Genty's going over 100 this weekend. I'd be surprised if he pulled an HM. For Tucker Kraft, no team is allowing a higher boost to tight end targets than the Bengals. They're surprisingly allowing the second fewest wide receiver targets compared to expectations. So this isn't like a total compared to what you would expect going into that game from the opposing team, the opposing offense. They're kind of funneling targets away from the wide receiver position and pushing them more towards tight ends. That works for us because picking wide receivers on the Packers is a nightmare. Honestly, one of them is probably going to have a good game, but good luck figuring out who's going to hit deep. We sort of hit the last time we picked Golden, but we only hit because Golden like ran the wrong route and stole the target from Wicks. Like, it's just so hard to actually predict which guy is going to hit here. Let's just not try and do that and say the matchup is awesome for Tucker Kraft. He's an exceptional player. He's a highly explosive player as well. So yes, 100 yards as the 100x here. Of course, that's going to be difficult for him to hit, but he's the type of tight end that can hit for a 30, 40, 50 yard play, and that's going to really help us. Kind of hard when you have a tight end that pretty much only ever gets 7, 8 yards downfield. They got to rack up a lot of receptions. Theoretically, Kittle could have 4 for 100. Do we prefer if he had, like 7, 8 targets? Of course. But yeah, he can get there on limited volume. But I think he's in a really good spot this week, coming off bye at home. Great matchup. Like, it's all kind of working out here for Tucker Kraft. And then Chase Brown, really, really, really bad spot for running back rushing volume. But Green Bay is actually the third best matchup for running back receptions because you can't run on them. Teams get down, have to throw it. They dump off to running backs at a high rate. Cincinnati projected to lose by 2 touchdowns this weekend. I think that's the biggest edge, the biggest spread so far this season, but that's a lot. And we've had some upsets, but it's unlikely that even if the Bengals were to win, it's unlikely the Bengals got up by so much where they're actually like finding a ton of success on the ground and they're running the ball a ton. The Bengals are going to drop back 40, 45 times in this one. Very, very, very real chance that Chase Brown can rack up 6, 7, maybe 8 receptions, meaning not a lock that he has, the high end here of 50 receiving yards. But the more receptions he racks up, he is a very explosive player. So a lot of them are probably going to only go for like 5 or 6 yards, but it only takes one. It only takes one dump off to where he turns up field, makes a guy miss, and he busts it off for 30, 40 receiving yards. That's what we're looking for here. Again, on average, a lot of these receptions aren't going to go anywhere, but the more chances he gets, the more likely he is to hit for his ceiling. In the 4 starts with Cleveland so far this season, I guess not going to be anymore, but the 4 starts that he had with Cleveland for Flacco, 45, 45, 36, and 34 pass attempts. We know in his previous stops, like teams would literally go from being run heavy to when he's quarterback, throwing the ball a ton regardless of game script really. And so we know the pass attempts are going to be there. He threw 9, 11, 5, and 5 receptions to running backs. So we know Flacco dumps off to running backs at a high rate, and on average teams trust him to throw it a lot. In this spot where you're going to have to throw it down 2 touchdowns on average, it's a really good spot. I know that P. Ryan's going to mix in as well, but Chase Brown will have plenty of opportunities for receptions this weekend, and he just has to break off one of them. So that's the ladder I'm running. Again, we're going to add on something to that at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Here are some solo picks I also like. Do what you want with these. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. higher than 48.5 receiving yards. I honestly don't know if Kyler is going to play this weekend, but I sort of hope that he doesn't. I think Brissett is not a starting caliber quarterback, but one of the better backups in the league. He's capable, he's decent in the passing department, and he's not going to take off as much as Kyler. And while from like a team perspective, you like the ability of Kyler to take off, to convert in the red zone, to convert on third downs, from a fantasy perspective, we kind of like that Brissett's not going to do that as much as Kyler because those rushing yards don't help us. If we're taking the players on the team, we would prefer that he stays in the pocket and delivers a pass attempt on that. Kyler just hasn't been that good. I'm hoping they kind of just let the foot rest for a week, see what the offense looks like with Brissett. The Colts aren't like a matchup to attack or anything, but they do provide a boost to both yards per reception and catch rate to wide receiver. It's nice getting both. There's a lot of teams that provide, a bigger catch rate, but way lower yards per reception. Typically teams that play a lot of zone, than teams that play man, much higher yards per reception, but much lower catch rate. So if you're boosting both of them, we can just see efficiency kind of increase, I don't want to say exponentially, but like it's nice seeing both to where they're not evening out, having higher on one and lower on the other. We should also expect a very passive game script in general. The Cardinals are touchdown, actually more than a touchdown road underdogs. It is unlikely they jump out to a big lead. We also know that like last week, not only did they play the Titans, right? They had that matchup where all running backs can be heavily efficient. But we also saw a positive game script until they blew it. But whenever the Cardinals get up and they get into a positive game script, they run the ball, they play slow, they don't be aggressive in the passing attack. And it made sense to a degree to do that last week because the Titans, again, allow so much efficiency to running backs. But that's not going to happen against the Colts. You're not going to see DeMercado rip off these long runs and Michael Carter look as good. Like they're going to look a lot worse this weekend at the Colts. And so again, I think they're going to lean more pass heavy, and hopefully, honestly, we get Brissett at quarterback. I also like Bijan higher than 74.5 rushing yards. Everyone is trying to beat the Bills by leaning run heavy, and they're now the 9th best matchup for opposing running back yards per carry. Again, compared to expectation. Even last week, before he got hurt, you could see the Patriots trying to establish the run with their biggest running back in Antonio Gibson. He had 6 carries and a reception in the first quarter. That was tied for his most touches in an entire game. So it was very evident they were like, who's our biggest back? Let's get him on the field and let's try and run with him. You saw Derrick Henry have his best game of the season against them, by far his best game of the season. You saw the Dolphins have some success with Ollie Gordon against them. That was his best game. They really tried to establish the run. And that one, this was the breakout game for Kendre Miller against them. Overall, actually, in that game, the Saints ran the ball 50% of the time, despite being in a trailing game script. So again, teams run the ball against the Bills, and coming off bye, I can promise you the Falcons know that and are going to lean very run heavy in this one. I will say the one chance that this has of not hitting is that Algier is technically a little bit heavier than Bijan, and there is a chance, again, teams with bigger running backs, they try to lean towards that. I just think, like, again, the chance is that maybe Algier gets more touches than we're expecting. Bijan is still their best running back, still their more explosive running back. And if they're just trying to establish the run in general, well, they're not going to give Algier 25 carries and only 10 for Bijan. It would be more that maybe it's not a 70-30 split, maybe it's 65-35 or maybe 60-40, but even that wouldn't matter too much because if the overall share, the overall volume of rushing is increasing, it's okay if Algier is a slightly higher percentage than normal. Bijan's been awesome this year, at least 72 rushing yards in 3 straight games. That counts a blowout win, a blowout loss, and a close win. So in all game scripts, they're getting Bijan the ball. Of course, his total yardage has been amazing this season, and he hasn't always hit on the ground. But again, 3 straight with at least 72 rushing yards. He is the engine of this offense, and if they want to win this game, he needs to go higher than 74.5 rushing yards. I also like Jared Goff, higher than 243.5 passing yards. The Chiefs' offense has been clicking the past 2 weeks since they got Worthy back. And with this game being at Kansas City, with the Chiefs being, 2-3, I fully expect KC to come out hot and treat this like a playoff game. They're, of course, nowhere near must-win territory. Even if they fall to 2-4, they can definitely make the playoffs. But if they were to drop to 2-4 after a loss this week, then there's a very real chance that they fall 2 games behind both the Chargers and the Broncos. The Chargers and Broncos have easy wins. I mean, the Chargers are only 4.5 point favorites, but 2 wins against the Dolphins and the Jets. They should both win those matchups. So if you're Kansas City, you're staring at a 2-game deficit, going into week 7. That wouldn't feel good. And so I expect them to put up points. I expect them to treat this like a playoff game. And if that happens, we know the Lions are going to be successful. Whenever the Lions are pushed, unless they're just getting completely destroyed, right? The Packers game is one that comes to mind where they got pushed, but they just kind of couldn't do anything on offense. That is an outlier. The vast majority of the time when the other side is consistently scoring and the Lions are forced to push the ball downfield, forced to remain aggressive, they play well on offense. So I think that it's a great pick because I really think the Chiefs look good. The problem is you don't always know with the Chiefs which player. I think they're going to be successful as a whole on offense, but there's so many players that you've picked that I don't feel overly confident in any one of them. I would say if I had to pick someone to pair, I would probably say Travis Kelce receiving because in these spots, in these big games at home, that's really when Kelce shows up, but I don't feel confident enough to list him. Another pick I like is Christian McCaffrey, higher than 48.5 receiving yards. Kittle, Pearsall, Juwan, all expected to be out again this week. So McCaffrey will remain a featured weapon in the passing game. He has receiving yardage totals this season of 73, 52, 88, 92, and 82 receiving yards, meaning he's not only gone higher than this in all 5, but he's nearly doubled his underdog projection of this week in 3 consecutive games. He also faces a Bucs defense that is the single clearest pass funnel in the NFL, grading out as the toughest team to run against, but allowing the 4th largest boost to running back receiving yards and allowing extra production to pass catchers as well. I'll post the ladder on the screen now, but if you take our ladder from before and you add Christian McCaffrey, if all 4 hit level 3, which is very difficult to do, but if all 4 do that, then you're looking at 500x. That would turn $75 into $37,500. Is that likely to happen? Of course not. No. It's something that on average should happen once every 28 years. Okay, so we're not looking at something that is likely to occur. But do I think it happens more than once out of every 28 years? I do. Final pick over today is Rico Dowdle, higher than 15.5 receiving yards. I do think it's a great matchup on the ground, and I do think Rico is an underrated running back. I think it's a great matchup for him. It's a revenge game, so and especially sometimes in these quote-unquote revenge games, they're not really revenge games because the running back or wide receiver, whoever signs the new contract, might be going to a better situation, might be getting, a larger deal than they would have gotten, and the team's like, oh, I mean, we wanted to keep you, we just can't afford you, something like that. Like, Dallas literally came out and was like, no, we just think Javonte's better. Like, they were just like, we don't think Rico's that good. We don't want to pay him even a small contract, because he would have stayed in Dallas if they gave him a small deal. Like, they went out of their way to pay more money to these other backs. So it really was kind of a slap in the face for Rico. You think he goes out there and he's like, all right, you guys didn't want me. You didn't think I was as good. Let me show you that I am. The problem is Underdog also knows this. So the underlying rushing yardage projection for Underdog is pretty high. I didn't love taking higher on that one, but 15.5 receiving yards. I mean, we talked about this last week with Rachaad White. No team allows a larger receiving yardage boost to running backs than the Dallas Cowboys, and that has been the case for years. I don't know what it is. I think their pass rushers just get a little bit too excited sometimes, but they just leave these screen passes wide open. For running backs, I expect Rico to go higher than 15.5, probably like 70% of the time this weekend. In fact, like if you just look at the boost, they're literally allowing a 17 receiving yardage boost. So whatever a backfield normally does in a week, add 17 receiving yards. That's what they should expect to do against Dallas. So if he's going to be featured, I mean, very rare that Trevor Etienne's going to be on the field. He's going to be out there for the vast majority of the snaps. The boost is already higher than what the underlying projection is for Underdog. And so you add in what he would expect to have on average, and he should go way higher than this. So good luck to everyone this weekend. Please don't place too much money on something that is 500 to 1. Again, should happen once every 28 years. But I do feel really good about all of these individually. So tailor your own risk. But let's hope that we can repeat the success from last week. If you have not yet signed up for Underdog, then why not do so now? Use promo code FFA when signing up, and they'll give you $100 in bonus funds if you play at least $5. Plus, if you do that, I'll email you login information to my website the following morning. You can see my fantasy football rankings and detailed projections for free for the rest of the season. All right, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all on Monday to go over the Week 7 waiver wire.